Sakalayan Gunarnavasha Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindan.
Lord Caitanya continued explaining to Sanatana Goswami about Lord Krishna's Avataras, or incarnations, which are his expansions who come to the material creation. The word Avatara means one who descends from the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and from these planets, the expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead come into this universe. The first descent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the expansion of Sankarsana is the first Purusha incarnation. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends as the first Purusha incarnation of the material creation, he immediately manifests 16 elementary energies. Known as Mahavishnu, he lies within the causal ocean, and it is he who is the original incarnation in the material world. Srimad Bhagavatam states that he is the Lord of time, nature, cause and effect, mind, ego, the 5 physical elements, the 3 modes of nature, the senses, and the universal form. He is the independent master of all moving and non-moving living beings in the material world. The influence of material nature cannot reach beyond the Viraja, or causal ocean, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Neither the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, nor material time have any influence on the Vaikuntha planets. On those planets, the liberated associates of Krishna live eternally, and they are worshipped by both the demigods and the demons. Material nature acts in 2 capacities, as Maya and Prana. Maya is the direct cause, and Pradhana refers to the elements of the material manifestation. When the first Purusha Avatara, Mahavishnu, glances over material nature becomes agitated, and the Purusha Avatara thus impregnates matter with the living entities. Simply by the glance of Mahavishnu, consciousness is created, and this consciousness is known as the Mahatattva. The predominating deity of the Mahatattva is Vasudeva. This created consciousness is then divided into 3 departmental activities according to the 3 gunas, or modes of material nature. Consciousness in the mode of goodness is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The predominating deity of this mode is Aniruddha. Consciousness in the mode of passion produces intelligence, and the predominating deity in this case is Pradyumna. He is the master of the senses. Consciousness in the mode of ignorance causes the production of ether, the sky, and the ear. The cosmic manifestation is a combination of all these modes, and in this way innumerable universes are created. No one can count the number of universes. These innumerable universes are produced from the pores of Mahavishnu's body. As innumerable atoms pass through the tiny holes in a screen, innumerable universes similarly emanate from the pores of Mahavishnu's body. As he breathes out, innumerable universes are produced, and as he inhales, they are annihilated. All of the energies of Mahavishnu are spiritual. They have nothing to do with the material energy. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the predominating deity of each universe, Brahma, lives only during 1 breath of Mahavishnu. Thus, Mahavishnu is the original supersoul of all the universes and the master of all universes as well. The second Vishnu incarnation, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, enters each and every universe, spreads perspiration from his body, and lies down on that water. From his navel grows the stem of a lotus flower, and on that lotus flower the first creature, Brahma, is born. Within the stem of that lotus flower are the 14 divisions of planetary systems, which are created by Brahma. In the form of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, the Lord maintains each universe and tends to its needs. Although he is within each material universe, the influence of the material energy cannot touch him. When it is required, this very same Vishnu takes the form of Lord Shiva and annihilates the cosmic creation. The 3 secondary incarnations, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are the predominating deities of the 3 modes of material nature. The master of the universe, however, is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is worshipped as the Hiranyagarbha supersoul. The Vedic hymns describe him as having thousands of heads. The 3rd incarnation of Vishnu, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, is the incarnation of the mode of goodness. He is also the supersoul of all living entities, and he resides on the ocean of milk within the universe. Thus, Caitanya Mahaprabhu described the Purusha Avataras, Lord Chaitanya next described the Leela Avataras, or pastime incarnations, and of these, the Lord pointed out that there is no limit. Still, he described some of them, for example, Matsya, Kurma, Raghunatha, Nrsimha, Vamana, and Varaha. As far as the Guna Avataras, or qualitative incarnations of Vishnu, are concerned, they are three: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is one of the living entities, but due to his devotional service, he is very powerful. This primal living entity, master of the mode of material passion, is directly empowered by Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu to create innumerable living organisms. In the Brahma Samhita, Brahma is likened to a valuable jewel influenced by the rays of the sun, and the Supreme Lord, Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu, is likened to the sun. If in some kalpa there is no suitable living entity who can act in Brahma's capacity, Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu himself becomes Brahma and acts accordingly. Similarly, by expanding himself as Lord Shiva, the Supreme Lord is engaged when there is a need to annihilate the universe. Lord Shiva, in association with Maya, has many forms, which are generally numbered at 11. Lord Shiva is not one of the living entities. He is more or less Krishna himself. The example of milk and yogurt is often given in this regard. Yogurt is a preparation of milk, but still yogurt cannot be used as milk. Similarly, Lord Shiva is an expansion of Krishna, but he cannot act like Krishna, nor can we derive the spiritual restoration from Lord Shiva that we derive from Krishna. The essential difference is that Lord Shiva has a connection with material nature, but Vishnu, or Lord Krishna, has nothing to do with material nature. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Lord Shiva is a combination of three kinds of transformed consciousness known as Vaikarika, Taijasa, and Tamasa. The Vishnu incarnation, although master of the modes of goodness within each universe, is in no way in touch with the influence of material nature. Although Vishnu is equal to Krishna, Krishna is the original source. Vishnu is a part, but Krishna is the whole. This is the verdict of the Vedic literature. The Brahma Samhita gives the example of an original candle which lights a second candle. Although the candles are of equal power, one is still accepted as the original, and the other is said to be kindled from the original. The Vishnu expansion is like the second candle. He is as powerful as Krishna, but the original Vishnu is Krishna. Brahma and Lord Shiva are obedient servants of the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord as Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna. After describing the Leela and Guna avatars to Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya explained the Manvantara avatars, incarnations associated with the Manas. He first stated that there is no possibility of counting the Manvantara avatars. 14 Manas appear in one kalpa, or day of Brahma, and for each Manu, there is a Manvantara avatara. It is calculated that each day of Brahma lasts 4,320,000 Earth years, and Brahma lives for 100 years on this scale. Thus, if 14 Manas appear in one day of Brahma, there are 420 Manas during 1 month of Brahma, and during 1 year of Brahma, there are 5,040 Manas. Since Brahma lives for 100 of his years, it is calculated that there are 504,000 Manas manifested during the lifetime of one Brahma. Since there are innumerable universes, no one can imagine the totality of the Manvantara incarnations. Countless universes are produced by the exhalation of Mahavishnu, and thus no one can begin to calculate how many Manas are existing at one time. Each Manu is known by a different name. The first Manu is Svayambhuv, and he is a direct son of Brahma. The second Manu, Svarochisha, is the son of the predominating deity of fire. The third Manu is Uttama, and he is the son of King Priyavrat. The fourth Manu, Tamasa, is the brother of Uttama, as is the fifth Manu, Raivata. The sixth Manu, Kakshusha, is the son of Kaksus. The seventh Manu is Vaivasvata, and he is the son of the sun god. The eighth Manu is Savarni, and he's also a son of the sun god, born of a wife named Chaya. The ninth Manu, Daksha Savarni, is the son of Varuna. The 10th Manu, Brahma Savarni, is the son of Upashloka. The 4 other Manus are Rudra Savarni, Dharma Savarni, Deva Savarni, and Indra Savarni. After describing the Manu incarnations, Lord Caitanya described the Yuga Avataras to Sanatana Goswami. There are 4 yugas, or millenniums, Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali, and in each millennium, the Supreme Lord appears in an incarnation of a different color. In the Satya Yuga, the color of the principal incarnation is white. In the Treta Yuga, the color is red. In the Dvapara Yuga, blackish, Krishna. and in the Kali Yuga, yellow Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by the astrologer Garga Muni, who calculated Krishna's horoscope in the house of Nanda Maharaja. In the Satya Yuga, the process of self-realization was meditation, and this process was taught by the white incarnation of God. This incarnation gave a benediction to the sage Kardama, by which he obtained an incarnation of the personality of Godhead as his son. In the Satya Yuga, everyone meditated on Krishna, and each and every living entity was in full knowledge. In the present age, the Kali Yuga, people who are not in full knowledge are still attempting various meditative processes not recommended for this age. In the Treta millennium, the process for self-realization was the performance of various sacrifices, and this process was taught by the red incarnation of God. In the Dvapara millennium, Krishna was personally present, and the process of self-realization for everyone in that age was worshiping him. He was blackish in color. He was the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and he induced people to worship him, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam states that in the Dvapara millennium, people generally worship the Supreme Lord Krishna by chanting the following hymn. Let me offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the forms of Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. In the next millennium, the present age, Kali Yuga, the Lord is yellow, and he teaches people the process of attaining love of God by chanting the names of Krishna. This process is shown personally by Krishna in the form of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and he exhibits love of Godhead by chanting, singing, and dancing with thousands of people following him. This particular incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is foretold in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the age of Kali, the Lord incarnates as a devotee and is always chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Although he is Krishna, his complexion is not blackish like Krishna's in Dvapara Yuga, but is golden. He always engages in preaching love of Godhead through the Sankirtana movement, and those who are intelligent adopt this process of self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam also states, the self-realization achieved in the Satya millennium by meditation, in the Treta millennium by the performance of different sacrifices, and in the Dvapara millennium by worship of Lord Krishna can be achieved in the age of Kali simply by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna. This is confirmed in the Vishnu Purana. In this age, there is no use in meditation, performance of sacrifices, or temple worship. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one can achieve perfect self-realization. When Lord Caitanya described the incarnation for this age of Kali, Sanatana Goswami, who had been a government minister and was perfectly capable of drawing conclusions, asked the Lord, how can one understand the advent of an incarnation? From the description of the incarnation for the Kali millennium, Sanatana Goswami could understand that Lord Chaitanya himself was that incarnation of Krishna. And he could also understand that in the future, many people would try to imitate Lord Chaitanya. Because the Lord had played as an ordinary Brahmana, though his devotees accepted him as an incarnation. Since Sanatana knew that there would be many pretenders, he asked the Lord, how can one understand the symptoms of an incarnation? As one can understand the different incarnations for previous millenniums by referring to the Vedic literature, the Lord replied, one can similarly understand who is actually the incarnation of Godhead in this age of Kali. In this way, the Lord especially stressed reference to authoritative scriptures. In other words, one should not whimsically accept a person as an incarnation, but should try to understand the characteristics of an incarnation by referring to the scriptures. An incarnation of the Supreme Lord never declares himself to be an incarnation, but his followers must ascertain who is an incarnation and who is a pretender by referring to authoritative scriptures. Any intelligent person can understand the characteristics of a real incarnation by understanding two kinds of features: the principal features, called personal characteristics, and the marginal features, comprising his activities. The scriptures describe both kinds of features. For example, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, The features of an incarnation are nicely described. In that verse, the two terms, Param, supreme, and Satyam, truth, are used, and Lord Caitanya indicated that these words reveal Krishna's principal feature. The other, marginal features, are that he taught Vedic knowledge to Brahma and incarnated as the Purusha Avatara to create the cosmic manifestation. These are occasional features, manifested for some special purposes. One should be able to understand and distinguish the principal and marginal features of an avatara. No one can declare himself an incarnation without referring to these two features. An intelligent man will not accept anyone as an avatara without studying the principal and marginal features. When Sanatana Goswami tried to confirm Lord Caitanya's personal characteristics as being those of the incarnation for this age, Lord Caitanya himself indirectly confirmed Sanatana's conclusion by simply saying, "Let us leave aside all these discussions and continue with a description of the Shaktyavesha Avataras." The Lord then pointed out that there is no limit to the Shaktyavesha Avataras, but that some can be mentioned as examples. The Shaktyavesha incarnations are of two kinds, direct and indirect. When the Lord himself comes, he is called a Sakshat or direct, Shaktyavesha Avatara. And when he empowers a living entity to represent him, that living entity is called an indirect or Avesha incarnation. Examples of indirect avataras are the four Kumaras, Narada, Prithu, and Parashurama. These are actually living entities who are given some specific power by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a specific opulence of the Supreme Lord is invested in specific entities, they are called Avesha Avataras. The four Kumaras represent the Supreme Lord's opulence of knowledge. Narada represents devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Devotional service is also represented by Lord Caitanya, who is considered the full representation of devotional service. In Brahma, the opulence of creative power is invested, and King Prithu is invested with the power for maintaining the living entities. Similarly, in Parashurama, the power for killing evil elements is invested. As for Vibhuti, or the special favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that a living entity who is especially powerful or beautiful should be known to be especially favored by the Supreme Lord. Examples of direct or sakshat, Shaktyavesha Avataras, are the Shesha incarnation and the Ananta incarnation. In Ananta, the power for sustaining all the planets is invested, and the Shesha incarnation is invested with the power for serving the Supreme Lord. After describing the Shaktyavesha incarnations, Caitanya Mahaprabhu began to speak about the age of the Supreme Lord. He said that the Supreme Lord Krishna is always like a 16-year-old boy, and when he desires to descend to this universe, he first sends his father and mother, who are his devotees, and then he himself appears. All his activities, beginning with the killing of the Putana demon, are displayed in innumerable universes, and there is no limit to them. Indeed, at every moment, at every second, his manifestations and various pastimes are seen in different universes, Brahmandas. Thus, his activities are just like the waves of the Ganges River. Just as there is no limit to the flowing of the waves of the Ganges, there is no cessation of various features of Lord Krishna's pastimes in different universes. From childhood, he displays many pastimes, and ultimately, he exhibits the rasa dance. It is said that all the pastimes of Krishna are eternal, and this is confirmed in every scripture. Generally, people cannot understand how Krishna performs his pastimes. But Lord Caitanya clarified this by comparing the performance of his pastimes to the orbit of the sun. According to Vedic astrological calculations, the 24 hours of a day are divided into 60 dandas. The days are again divided into 3,600 palas. The sun disk can be perceived, crossing the sky in steps of 60 palas each, and that time constitutes a danda. 8 dandas make 1 prahara, and the sun rises and sets within 4 praharas. Similarly, 4 praharas constitute 1 night, and after that the sun rises. And just as the sun can be seen in its movement through 3,600 palas, all the pastimes of Krishna can be seen in any of the universes. Lord Krishna remains in this universe for only 125 years. But all the pastimes of that period are exhibited in each and every universe. These pastimes include his appearance, the activities of his boyhood and youth, and his later pastimes, including those at Dvaraka. Since all these pastimes are present in one or another of the myriad universes at any given time, they are called eternal, just as the sun is eternally existing. Although we see it rise and set, appear and disappear, according to our position on the earth, so Krishna's pastimes are eternally going on, although we can see them in this particular universe only at certain intervals. As stated earlier, Krishna's abode is the supreme planet known as Goloka Vrindavana. By his will, this Goloka Vrindavana is manifested in this universe, and in other universes as well. Like Krishna's name, fame, and everything else, directly connected to him, Goloka Vrindavana is absolute and is therefore equal to him. Thus, the Lord is always in his supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavana, and by his supreme will, his activities there are also manifested at particular places in innumerable universes. And whenever and wherever Krishna appears, he displays his 6 opulences.